All right, let's circle back now to what's playing out in Abidjan. We see there's a general consensus that Africa's resources are underutilized at the ongoing African Development Bank Group annual meeting. Following up on this, our correspondent John McQuay had a chat with the Minister of Education, as the former Minister of Education, Dr.Oby Ezekwesili, and this is and she, preferred some possible solutions in this interview. Take a listen.
Data from AfDB suggests that 80% of Africa's development is funded by the continent, and just about 20% actually comes from outside the continent. But I mean, it's common knowledge that the perspective is that majority of Africa's development is funded from outside, and so the continent is always in need. Why do you think there's this skewed perception instead of the data that we have from AfDB?
Well, because 20% is still a substantial number for any country's development budget. However, I think that the key thing that we have to understand is that we also have created an impression of not caring about our internal resources that go toward development. And so you find a situation where the budget for education of a country is, let's say, $300 million. And then a development partner is coming to the table with some $30 million or $50 million. And the citizens of the country will pay so much emphasis and attention to the $30 million that's coming from development partners, and they would ignore the larger pool of resources that the country is spending based on its own domestic resources. We shouldn't do that. We should really care about what every dollar of investment that is going into a sector is generating. We do need to have a results and outcome-minded approach to the issue of financing our development. For as long as we don't have it, our interest would be in all other things other than putting a lot of attention to how we are investing our own domestic resources. I'm not one of those sort of saying, oh, adversity has come upon us, because the global architecture of development financing has markedly changed. I am one of those sort of saying, this is the era of discipline. We haven't really been disciplined as a continent in the way that we have looked on the necessity for urgency in our development journey. We kind of have aided this idea that bilateral partners and multilateral institutions have a responsibility to develop Africa. Development is about discipline. When Africans sort of look at the Chinese and they envy what has happened in China, there's a discipline that went with the development journey. China depended on the bank, on the World Bank, for a part of its development journey. In fact, it wasn't until recently that they started scaling down in terms of the relationship with the World Bank. But the development journey of China was led by the Chinese through conversations and ideas. Oh my God. Okay. It's ultimately all about discipline. Development requires discipline because the quality of decisions that are made determine outcomes. You can continually make wrong decisions and somehow hope that development will happen. It doesn't happen like that. One of the things that we've seen over the decades now, as we've watched countries that were poor move from poverty to growth, leading to development over time, is that the things that cumulatively add up toward those outcomes can be replicated. That's the story of China. China came to a place where it realized that, wait a minute, we are busy distributing poverty amongst ourselves because we're not consciously following principles that incentivize people to put their best foot forward. So what did they do? They basically deployed the principles of the market for their economy. The moment they understood that pretending that through collectivism we're going to get to development